Hi, I'm Therian. I'm going to be showing you today how to use SWOP if you're new to it or you just want to figure out how to get things started. There's a lot of guides on how to get your JSON and stuff like that. You're going to need that, and then you're just going to click here where it says Browse, and you're going to import it. But after that, the focus of this guide is going to mostly be to show you how to actually use SWOP in the most simple manner possible. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be assuming that you have no prior knowledge about how to use SWOP. This is going to be for complete beginners, and I recommend that while we do this video, you pull out SWOP alongside and you try to use it as well. So the goal of this is going to be to show you how to use this and how to be able to simulate monsters through it on your own without the help of others in the future. You could still ask for help, but if you want to be able to make your monsters as good as possible with what you have, you want to be able to know how to do that. So I'm going to be going through the basics, assuming that you don't know anything. Um, so yeah, we'll just get started from there. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be uh, taking one of the defenses that I have set up in terms of one of the guides for them, and we're going to be ruining it as if I was making this defense. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to look at this. So I don't own Nora, so I'm going to have to add Nora into this, but I'm going to go through all of these requirements one by one and make sure that we have them. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do Ciara. Okay? So let's start with the basics. The first thing that you need to do is you need to pick your monster. So if you've imported your JSON and you own a monster, then it's going to be here. So what you do is you click this and you can either type, what I do is I just type Ciara, or you could find it, whatever works best for you. And then you have Ciara. The next thing that you want to do, I know there's a lot of information on the screen, but we're going to try to keep this as simple as possible, is we're going to go to sets. Now right here, it says set 1 and set 2. You could do this in either order. And if you only need one set or no sets, you don't have to put anything at all here. But for the sake of this guide, we're going to do it the way that I have it written down here. So for this Ciara, we want her on Violent Revenge because the whole defense is ruined on Violent Revenge. So we're going to go here and we're going to type, I just do the same thing, I just type Violent. You could find it there, you could scroll down, whatever works. And we're going to do Revenge. Alright, so now we have the two sets focused. Don't worry about where it says exclude or anything like that. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do this just like we were ruining a monster in the Rune Manager. So we're going to do the slot 2, 4, and 6. So what do we want to put in these? So this depends on what we think we're going to be looking for in our build. If we want to do speed here, we're going to write speed. If we want to give it the option of speed or attack, we could put attack. Or HP, we could put all of these options, or none. But for the sake of this, since we're going to want them on 286 tick, we're probably going to want this on a speed slot 2. So we're just going to leave it on speed slot 2 for now, because I assume most people that do 286 tick are going to need that. Next is going to be slot 4. So again, you have all these options here. You're going to pick whichever one, if you were ruining a monster, what would you put here? Or what would be the ones that you would think would be good? So in this case, I'm going to put crit rate, and I'm going to put HP as well, just in case, and attack. I'll put all these, all right, just in case there's a build that's good that So I'm looking for 100% crit rate. It's under the requirements that I want, but maybe I can get that without a crit rate slot 4. I don't know. We'll see what we get. Now for the slot 6, we're going to do the same thing. So I would be happy with an attack or an HP percent. Both would be fine with me. If you want to do just one, that's fine too. Now I'm using SWOP Pro for this, so this thing right here where it uses the gems won't be available for you, but don't worry, you don't need this. This is just a nice little extra thing that SWOP Pro has. All of the instructions I'm giving you will work perfectly fine if you're just using the regular SWOP. So the next thing, sorry about that. Wait, I gotta do my run real quick here. Okay, no good runes, we good. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna enable the totem. Now some people like to do the calculation without the totem. and just do the speed by hand. I think it's a lot easier if you add the totem. So I don't know what level your speed tower is, but you check what level your speed tower is. If it's max, you just do 15. Otherwise, you're going to go here. I think there are some numbers actually in between these for some of the speed towers, but either way, just select the lower number if that's the case. We're going to be doing 15% for the sake of this video because I know that mine is maxed. Um, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the speed lead, right? So if there's a speed lead, this is important because if you don't have the speed lead in there, then you're not going to get the correct speed that you're looking for without it. So if I want 286 tick, and I have a speed lead, if I don't put the speed lead in, then I'm going to have a bunch of extra speed that doesn't do anything. So in this case, because it's Ciara, Nora, Theomars, I know that Ciara is the lead. Ciara has a 24% speed lead. So if you were doing this and there wasn't a Ciara, you'd put nothing here. It would be fine. Now, um, if you're ruining your defense, the mentality that we typically follow is we want to put the absolute best runes that we have without any compromise on our defense. So what are we going to do then? We're going to untick this where it says use runes only from inventory. Now there's a bunch of other options here, and I'm just going to very quickly cover them. If you're swapping for Vertiheal, for example, and you're trying to make Trikaru, you're going to want to tick this right here where it says display your result with Arena Towers, and then just don't do the totem, okay? Because the totem is, here, wait, hold on, I'll show you. I have a different one here. So the totem is this tower. It's called let me find it, sorry, the Sky Tribe Totem. That's why it says totem. So, whatever your level is, you're going to put that in. Normally, but if you're doing it with the arena towers because you want to make Vertiheal or something like that, then you're just going to want to go ahead and not do the totem and tick the speed towers because it will include the totem by default. Now, when I and many other players are trying to get the stats of their monsters, we aren't looking for them with arena towers when it comes to PvP. When it comes to PvE, this is a very good idea to look at it with the towers. So when you're doing it for PvE, tick the towers. When you're doing it for PvE, for PvP, don't tick the towers. Now, I know that this is a lot of information, and again, a lot of this may seem overwhelming at first, but this is going to become a lot simpler the more that you use it. So, the next thing that we're going to do is I like to always tick use grinds minimum. All right, and what that's going to do is it's not going to use grinds as if you don't have them. It's going to take the grinds into your inventory, and it's going to use them. Now, if this is your first time using SWOP, and you're trying to set up Vertiheal, for example, or if you just want to do this in general, you may wish to click Include Immemorial Grindstones, because that'll include the ones that you get from Tartarus or the packs or what have you. I'll include it right now as well, just because this is how, if I was ruining my defense, I would want my absolute best everything, right? So we have that set up. So now artifacts, we're not even going to worry about it. We're just going to leave it. If you want to enable artifacts, I would recommend, for the sake of simplicity, like if you want to know the stats you're going to have, I would equip the artifacts on the monster that you want to use, and then just untick this where it says disable, and tick use current artifacts only, because it's like a whole different thing with artifacts, and it's a heck of a lot simpler to manage your artifacts than it is to manage your runes. So that's what I would do. But otherwise, just add the stats that they give you. So for example, plus 200 attack if you have 2 attack types, plus 3000 HP if there's 2 HP, etc. Or if you have 1 attack, 1 HP. You understand where I'm going with this. So the next thing that we're going to do is, so we're going to ignore all this. We're just going to pretend this isn't here. Is we're going to go to focus. Now, the reason that focus exists is because you have a lot of runes, right? And especially when you tell the program to use any rune, be like, you can use any rune I have in my inventory as long as it's from these sets. What we want to do is we want to guide swap to find what we're looking for, right? Because otherwise it won't really know. So you don't have to do this, but it usually makes it a lot faster. With me, because I use Swap Pro, it's going to be basically instant either way, because it utilizes my graphics card. But you want to put in the focus just to make it a little bit easier for the program. So in this case, I know what I'm looking for. I know that I want speed because 286 tick is going to be mandatory. The next thing is I know that I want crit rate because I know I need 100% crit rate. Following that, I want attack because I want some attack for the bombs. Then I want some HP. Now the last one, I could put defense, I could put accuracy. I'm just going to put in accuracy just to make SWOP have a little bit easier of a time. The next part is the search depth. Now this is what will make your SWOP take a bit longer, but it will also give you better runes. And if you're doing this with your defenses, I highly recommend turning the search depth up quite a bit. This will make it take a long time to go through and figure out what you have. But I would recommend setting it to at least 40 or 50 when you're doing your defenses. If you're not doing your defenses, I wouldn't worry about this so much. You could leave it at 10, and I'll go over very quickly after this what I would do if I was doing this, or how I used to do it before I had SWAP Pro. I only really got it recently. I'll go over that. So for now, we're going to set this to 50 because that's a pretty decent search depth. You might find that you want less or more. As you can see, the amount of builds that SWOP has to look through has drastically increased when we increase it to 50. And it's already complaining before I've even pressed optimize because it doesn't want me to make it work so hard. So now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look here. All right, so what are our minimum requirements? If you know what your minimum requirements are going to look like, then you could just put them in on your own. All right, but in this case, I know that I want at least 286 speed tick. Okay, and the next thing I want is at least 100% crit. These are both things that are very important for my defense, so I need to have them. And then following that, I want 35 accuracy. I could increase this number or decrease it depending on what I'm looking to do, but for now I'll put it at that, and 120,000 EHP. Now that I've done all that, what's left is I need to go here where it says there's actual stats plus 12 plus 15. You should basically always tick plus 15 because this is going to simulate as if the runes are plus 15. So let's go ahead and click optimize and see what we get. If we don't get any builds, we could try to lower the requirements to make it a little bit easier. But as you can see, it found many builds. So now I have all these builds here. So what do I want to do next? Well, this really depends on what you're looking to do with your build. So after you have the minimum requirements, do you want more damage? Do you want more, etc.? So let's say that I want more damage. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I actually probably should have done this first, I apologize, is I'm going to go to this thing right here that says damage options. Now this is going to bring up a really big window. There's going to be a lot. It looks complicated. We're going to keep it as simple as possible. All right? So because we're doing Ciara, we're going to do Fate of Destruction, which is her second spell. That's a bomb. So we tick right here. It says is a bomb. If this was Lucian, we would select his skill 3 and select ignore defense. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change it from crit to normal. I'm actually not sure if this matters for bombs, but I think it might. So I'll just set it to normal. The next thing that I want to go over is, let's say that this is for Vertiheal for Trikaru, because I do want to give some info for people that are trying to use SWOP for PvE, because that's very important. You should be doing that. In this case, you would want to select Kairos Dungeon right here. And I would also select the dungeon, the boss itself, if you want to check on that. All those sorts of things. You could include an attack leader skill. There are all sorts of different options here. But for Ciara, this is just what we're going to do. So we have it set to is a bomb, normal, and we're just going to click apply. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to click optimize, and we're going to sort it by damage. So the highest damage that we have available is 11,837. The way that you sort it, if you didn't see, that was a little bit quick, is you click this thing where it says damage. Now, what you may be wanting to do next is looking through and seeing how the stats compare from damage. Let's say that I valued accuracy a little bit more. So perhaps this build may be a better suit for me, because the damage that I'm losing is very small. I'm losing 2,000 EHP. If this is important to me, then I may adjust it appropriately. But these are just things that you want to think about when you're doing this. This is how I would go through if I was trying to make my CR for defense. When I did go through and make my CR for defense, this is what I did. Um, and just figure out which among these builds you want to use. You can also adjust, once you know that there are builds that exist for the minimum requirements that you're looking for, you could say, all right, well, I want at least 1100 bomb damage, but I want more accuracy. I still want to keep all these the same, but we'll say that, and let's say that I want more accuracy. So let's sort by accuracy now. So now I have all these builds, but I've found a build with 60% accuracy. If that was something that I would be prioritizing, that would be a good way of doing it. Now, you don't have to go all or nothing. You don't have to find the highest accuracy. You could continue to tweak with this until you say, I want 50 here. I want a certain amount of attack, a certain amount of defense, a certain amount of whatever it is, resistance. We would do this and then find what we're looking for. So now, the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to go through the speed tuning part of this, because this is where a lot of players, I think, get a little bit tripped up and it can be a little bit complicated. So if we go back to this, the turn order that I recommended here is Nora, Theomars, Ciara. So now, if I have 286 speed exactly, that would mean that I'm going to need at least 286 if the monster is not taking the lead slot, because I can go for a speed tie and change the slot. To show you what I mean by this, really quick, I think I actually I'm not sure if I have this set up correctly right now. I'm pretty sure that my Galleon and Charlotte are speed tied. Here, I'll just go to Siege because that's normally how we would do it. You go here, and if you're doing, let's say that these two monsters are speed tied, all right, the monster that takes the first slot or the one before it will move first. So in this case, Kali would move before McKean, and in this case, McKean would move before Kali. Now, there's a problem here, though, and that problem is that Ciara is currently in the lead slot. So that means that it cannot be 286. If Clara in this situation is 286 and Ciara is 286, because we need her in the lead slot, we can't move them around to make this work differently. So that's going to mean that Clara is going to need at least 287 speed. Now, let's say that we want to do the same thing, however, with Theomars. Let's say that we wanted to have them very close in speed. Theomars could be 286 here, or sorry, 287. Claire could be 287, and then if Claire is here, she's going to move for it first, and if Theomars is here, he's going to move first. I know that this sounds a bit confusing, but you can mess around with it and try, just so that you understand how it works. Again, I know this is a lot of information. Feel free to take your time, go back, try things, see how it works for yourself. But what I will talk about in the speed tuning part of this is, let's say that I chose this build right here. This build right here would be 290 speed. That would mean that every monster on the defense would also need to be at least 291 speed. If this wasn't the monster in the lead slot, then they would need to be at least 290 if I'm trying to have them speed tuned in a certain order. But we'll just say 291 for simplicity's sake. So in this case, because I want Ciara to move last, I think that I would prefer if Ciara was on as close to tick as possible for me running this defense. There's a bunch of different ideas that people have. Some people like to run a bit over tick so that they catch people that are lazy and go for exact ticks, whatever. I won't go over all that. We'll just go for the fact that if this is 290, that means that you're going to need 5 more speed for each of your monsters, which puts pressure on your runes. So I would try to take the one that's as close to 286 as possible here. So now let's talk about the speed tuning part of this to make it as simple as possible. In this case, I'm going to take a defense that I have set up right now, which is Ciara, Claire, Theomars, which I just showed you before. Right here, I think it's Theomars too. Yep, that should be right. Everything is very close in speed, as you can see. So, and this is an example of where because my Ciara has 289 speed, my Theomars needs at least 290 because Ciara takes the lead slot. And then I have Clara 2 speed faster, so it's all very close in speed tuning. So anyways, this is essentially what you're going to need to do in order to make sure that everything works right. Is you're going to need to make sure that when you're going through this, you find the speed of the monster that is going to be the slowest on your team, and everyone else needs to be faster. I know that may sound very simple, but it is something that's very important. So I think that's about all that I'm going to cover here for this. Um, just to go through the speed tuning part once more. If you do want to go through speed tuning, I'm going to briefly cover this because this is a topic I get asked about a lot. Let's say that we are trying to speed tune a Tiana team. Okay, again, I'm gonna try to make this very simple and very short, so there may be a few details missing, but we're gonna try to keep this as simple as possible. Okay, so when we're calculating the speed for these Tiana teams, it's going to be different than how we do with siege defense. Why? Well, because normally what we want to do is we just want to take the in-game speed because that makes it a little bit easier. You could do it with the combat speed as well, but then you have to do the same thing when you include lead skills and what have you, and it gets kind of messy. So I would just go by this number if I was doing it in-game, or if I was doing the Tiana one. And when you're doing the Tiana one, you want to remove these. And so let's say that we're going to put Ciara here. So Ciara, we're just going to remove all the towers and everything, and we're just going to have her minimum speed set to 250. That's how you're going to speed tune it with that. That's the simplest way that I can explain it. Or, sorry, 215, because 215 is the minimum, right? And, you would continue to add monsters, like, if, again, just randomly, if I put Clara here, and I want Clara to move first, so I would need at least 226, 225 for Ciara. So I would put 225 speed here without the lead and without the totem. So that's how you do it with Tiana. That's the easiest way in my opinion. But anyways, yeah, I think that's going to be just about all that I cover. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them on Discord. I think most of you who watch this video will probably know me on Discord. You could just tag me and ask me a question. And yeah, I hope that this helps you learn how to use SWOP. And hopefully all this isn't too complicated because I know that there is a lot of information, but once you get the basics down, usually everything else seems to come to place pretty simply. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.